Hey everyone, I'm your host, Robbie Strazynski, and thanks so much for joining us on episode number 32 of CardsChat, the friendliest poker podcast in town. Today we welcome one of poker's newer personalities, Marle Cordeiro. She first came to the broader community's attention a couple years ago via an appearance on Andrew Neeme's blog, after which she started a YouTube channel of her own that quickly grew in popularity. Since then, she's rocketed to stardom in the poker world, with playing appearances on Poker Go, Live at the Bike, and other poker streams. She's been the host for the Triton Series, co-hosted the Rake podcast with Jamie Kerstetter, and beyond all that, content production is a talented professional poker player, and just a super cool person. Marle, welcome to the CardsChat podcast.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Likewise. So you and I have done the social media dance for a while. We've collaborated a couple times, but I kind of feel that this is the first real opportunity that I'm going to get to know you a little bit better. So because of that, let's start at the beginning. How did you get into poker?
So the short version is my dad played for a living for a little while when I was growing up. So I was always around it. I lived in Vegas for a short time. I went to high school here for a year when he was playing live, and went to freshman year in high school. And it was never really something I wanted to do for a job, but I always enjoyed it. And it was always a bonding experience with my dad and I, who were very close. And yeah, I was kind of living in New York in my early 20s. I went to school there, and I was kind of looking for a change. And my dad was living out here. And I still didn't really necessarily move here to play poker. It was just for a change and to be closer to him. And I fell in with a great group of people who took me under their wing and really coached me and helped me out. And so I've been playing full time now for probably 4.5 years.
Nice.
And yeah, and about 3 years ago, I started making content.
Yeah, cool. Well, before the 4.5 years of playing professionally, what is it about the game that attracted you? What do you find so interesting about it?
Well, I've kind of always chosen high variance careers. I was an actor before this, and my dad always jokes around that I would choose very high variance things, very difficult things. And I think that I just like the challenge. I like kind of not knowing if I'm gonna go bust or not. When I do play, I think there's also a spectrum within the poker community of more conservative, really cautious bankroll management people and other people who kind of take a lot of shots. I've always been a shot taker. I've always been hyper aggressive and almost frivolous. So I think that that's what attracts me.
Interesting. Okay, cool. So you said you fell in with a particular kind of crowd that kind of helped you get into the scene. Care to name some names and give some shout outs?
So it was my ex-boyfriend, who I don't think you know, but it's this group of people in Vegas who are from a meditation community in Iowa. Probably the most famous of them is Max Steinberg. He final tabled the main event. Yeah. He grew up with my ex-boyfriend, and then a few others, Cy Watson, Josh Atkinson, Lincoln Garner. So those people, and they were really, really helpful. Josh was the person really who took me under his wing and started coaching and staking me early on. And it was really great because there was the trust there, because he was my ex's good friend and my good friend, and a good person. And so I think a lot of times when you get into poker, I hear so many horror stories about staking and coaching, especially being a woman. People don't always have the purest intentions. And I just was so lucky to meet people that there was already this like baseline of trust. And so I could dive in.
Oh, that's really great. And you kind of found them, like, I guess you were just, playing in the rooms and just befriended people at the tables? Is that how it worked?
Yeah, I met my ex and we started dating, and that's how I met this whole group of people. So I just got lucky.
Cool. Okay. Well, sometimes run good is a good thing. Better rather be lucky than good. You started the content creation, like you said, 3 years ago. Why'd you decide to do that? Start the YouTube channel?
Well, like I said, I was an actor for many years, and even though I left that world professionally, I'm just a creative person. I want that outlet, and it just seemed like a really natural fit. I still left poker at the time, but I was really good. I had known Andrew Neeme since I had moved here, so I had known Andrew at the time for years, and he was very encouraging, very supportive, as were a few others, Johnny Vibes, Bretto, and I'd known all those guys. And so, yeah, they really encouraged me, gave me the support. And like I said, it was just a natural progression and an outlet for me.
Okay, so it's like an artistic expression. Did you have this thought when you first started, okay, I want to build an audience like these guys, like Andrew, like Johnny, Brad, and, take it from there and, become more involved in that way as well? Is that a preconceived notion?
I don't even know if I had this preconceived notion of being on their level or having it monetized like they do. It was honestly more just like, I need a creative outlet. I need something. I think that any poker player needs an outlet. And for some people that's working out or that's, going to nature, whatever. But for me, what it is creative. And so it was just like an outlet, no expectations of how I could monetize it or whatever. And I was just lucky that I got it at the right time and I had the right support. But yeah.
Nice. Well, I guess you could say a fellow content creator of sorts. I know, it's fun to kind of look at the numbers, the analytics, how well is it doing, who's liking, who's engaging. Is that something that you do? And I ask specifically because if it's just a creative pursuit, perhaps just, hit and publish or upload, maybe that's enough.
No, well, it started off that way. And that's kind of the trap is that when you do start to get paid for it, when you do start to, it does start to become a monetized thing and maybe even your main focus, you fall in the trap of looking at the numbers. And I think that's look at it a little bit is good, but I think that if you just stick to, why I think I was so successful in the beginning is because I just was doing things that I thought was funny. Like the stuff I was making hadn't really been done before.
Right.
And I think a lot of people go into it being like, I'm going to make a vlog like Andrew Neeme, or I'm going to make a vlog like Brad, and then I'm going to succeed. And it's not a bad strategy. And I think it can work, but I think that the ceiling on growth of that strategy is pretty low.
Mm-hmm.
And also you're not going to enjoy it. Like you need to do what is you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you can't substitute originality. Well, on the poker playing side, you did mention backing staking. So I want to get into that just a little bit. And here's my question here. So a lot of listeners, a lot of members of the CardsChat forum, or the CardsChat community, they're people like me, 1, 2, 2, 5 recreational players. We have these dreams someday we'll play in, the biggest games in the world. You have actually climbed pretty high. You used to be playing, 2, 5, 5, 10. You're still playing those sorts of stakes. But a couple months after you started the vlog, you're playing 1025 on Poker Go. And then you posted a video where you're playing 300, 600 no limit at the high limit room at the Aria. So that's not typically something that happens overnight. How did it happen?
Yeah, it did almost happen overnight for me. And there were some consequences with that. I mean, there's a reason why, it's good to grind up the stakes and pay your dues, so to speak. And I definitely skipped some steps. And what comes with that is fumbling a bit at the beginning. And yeah, so how it happened really was, I was playing like 2-5 and 5-10 in Vegas, and still staked. And I had just broken up with my ex, and Josh was still staking me. And I started this vlog, and I kind of just got all this attention. And like I said, I was doing a lot, and so it kind of just stars kind of aligned. I was getting invitations for these bigger games, and Josh couldn't afford to stake me, nor was he really in poker anymore. So he kind of handed me over to a friend of his, and I wasn't a makeup or anything, so he just took over.
Okay.
And a friend of mine, Matt Berkey, I think people know pretty well that we are friends, and he got me into this 300, 600 game. And then my backer, people think that Berkey was backing me. Berkey was never backing me. It's funny. But the guy who was backing me got me in some other games, and it's just one of those things that the bottom line is like, if you're a woman, it's a really they're looking for women to play big games. So if you're like Farrah Galfond I play with her many times. She's a regular in the game, and a few others, Lynn, G.
Sure.
But they're just looking for, there's not a lot of women who can play that stake, who have the means. So it's just, you just get a fast track. It's as simple as that. I didn't earn it in any way. Just,
okay. Well, it's something we always appreciate, your openness. You don't hold back. And in a sense, for all the ladies out there, there's plenty of women in the Cards Chat community. There's a spot, that this is certainly something to be used to your advantage. If they want women in there, go ahead, get yourself out there, perhaps. What does it feel like, though? I mean, if you're sitting in the 2, 5, 5, 10 streets and all of a sudden you're in a 300, 600 game, are you like, oh my God, deer in the headlights kind of a thing?
Totally deer in headlights. And the biggest thing is just, I think that even if you did grind your way up and you did go from 50, 100 and you kind of whatever, when you're in that league of money, because obviously in poker, you have to think about it in big blinds and just bet, and you can't think about the actual dollar value. And I think that I think people would be lying to you if they said that they could do that right away at that stake. It's impossible. Like, it's impossible because I think that I was buying it for 50K, which is less than 100 big blinds. So it's very easy to win. It's conceivable to win $250,000 in a session game.
Yeah.
And that's life-changing money to anybody. I don't care how rich you are. So it's just wrapping my mind around that and just thinking about it in big blinds took a long time. It took a really long time. And even now, I played in it a couple of times right before COVID. And even up until then, it's just like, you have to just numb yourself to just be like, this is just big blinds. Like, it's 100 big blinds. So
wow.
It's hard.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Does it play? I mean, again, from those of us, again, on the more recreational side of things, it's, gigantic dollar amounts. And, we can logically thinking about it in big blinds, but, we say, okay, well, does it take, the skill? But if you're rich enough, to go ahead and play these games, do they play differently? Or, I imagine there's got to be, obviously much more skilled players, but what's the tangible difference besides the money in terms of, who you're sitting with at the table?
Well, actually, I think that it plays softer. Like, it's this bell curve, right, where the player competency gets tougher and tougher. And I think it honestly caps out around 10-20 Bellagio is like a really tough game as far as the average skill level. And then when you get higher than that, it goes back down. And then when you get to nosebleeds, you're playing against kind of goobers a little bit. I mean, there's some good players like Andrew Robles, regular, like there's some really good players, but overall, like, it comes back down. It's just, so yeah, it actually plays soft. It plays soft, but like things that are no brainers, you just like, I was second guessing in the beginning just because I was like, fuck, because even though I was staked, I had half of myself. So if I win 100K, it's like, I still get $50,000 in my pocket today. So it's like, that's a lot of money to anybody, anytime. So it's just so hard to pull the trigger when you need to. It's just so hard.
Because the money is still somewhere in your mind.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not Jungle Man. Like, I feel like there's people that can really compartmentalize and just be a sicko and be a robot, but I'm not one of those people. Like, it's so hard for me. It's
an interesting insight, though, that you're saying like the 10-20 Bellagio is like, that's the peak of the bell curve. So perhaps there's something to just like, really, really grinding up a bankroll and then perhaps even skipping that level to get on the other side of the curve.
Oh, that's the dream. That's the dream. But when you play against tough players, that makes you better. Like, so that's too is I actually like battling with tough players. There's a lot of like regs in Vegas who bum hunt and who, as soon as the game gets kind of meh, reggy, they'll leave. But I've always enjoyed playing with tough players because it just makes you better. And then when you sit in a tough game, it just feels like, oh,
this is easy. Give me the money, right?
Yeah, but like, I don't know, like it's I don't know.
Okay. Well, what does it feel like to go back to your regular stakes after sitting at a 300, 600 no limit table?
I mean, I still play all kinds of stakes, but spoiler alert, I am on one of the seasons of Poker After Dark coming up, which was a decent stake.
Okay.
It might be coming out when this is out, so it's okay.
Okay.
But which was like pretty high, and then but like in the same week I will play. Yeah, my main game is 510 at the Win. I'll play that game a few times a week on my own money, but it's that's the difference. Is like I'm selling so much, and when I play lower, I just play my own, and so I guess it evens out. I don't know.
Interesting. Okay, well, that's
Yeah.
interesting insight there. Well, of course, like you say, we're talking about cash games, those sorts of stakes, as opposed to a tournament player. As a cash game player, besides win all the money, do you have any sort of specific goals, or like you said, is that the dream, like to really get over that bell curve, and one day I'll be playing 50, 100, that sort of a thing?
Actually, I'm trying to get out of cash. I still love it.
Oh.
I'm moving to the UK. Of course, I'm engaged to Spraggy, and I'm going to be focusing mainly on content. But I'm gonna when I do play, I'm gonna be playing. I've been playing a lot of tournaments here in Vegas, and I think the tournaments are just like the future, and there's also a lot of value in them. I still like cash is my love, but I'm trying to actually get out of it. So.
That's interesting. Well, that type of a transition necessitates some study. So any sort of shout outs, any poker training sites, or do you do one-on-one coaching with Spraggy? Ben Spragg, by the way, for those who don't know.
Ben Spragg, yeah. We and Spragg talk a lot of hands. We talk a lot with shout out to Tonka and Connor Beresford. And that's the main source of study, but he also does BBZ on his stream, and we use BBC a lot. We see a lot of their seminars, and just running hands in Pio and stuff. But there's been a big adjustment to from cash to tournaments. There's so many things that just don't apply that I have bad habits of doing in tournaments. So I'm trying to break those day by day.
Well, when you're a professional poker player, it usually means a unconventional, very particular type of lifestyle. Do you have any sort of routine that you do every day? How do you decide, what am I going to do today?
Routine. I'm not really like that. I need to be more like that. The one thing that I have started to incorporate this since quarantine is like some sort of like therapy or coaching once a week, because that kind of keeps me focused. But I don't like get up in the morning and meditate and have like I'm very just like, I don't know, I'm very impulsive.
Oh, interesting. So it's like, game's good now, let's go to the game, it's time to study, eat, that sort of a thing.
Yeah, and also like with creative stuff, if I get an idea for something, like I'll just like all the time I'll just be doing something. I'll get an idea for something, and I'll have to just drop what I'm doing and like flesh that out right then and there.
Oh, interesting.
And sometimes I'll just like dive into that for 24 hours. Like I'm very like I don't know, like I'm very just impulsive.
Huh. Okay. And when you're doing just your content that you mentioned, you're impulsive, you do it. Is it perfect? Does it have to be perfect right away, or you just do it until it's perfect, or first thing you put out there, that's, comes from the gut and let's show it to the world?
I'm perfect in the sense of like, I can tell when it's ready. I can tell when it's good, when like the idea is fleshed out and is good, or when it's missing something, and it will drive me crazy until I figure that out. But I'm not perfect in the sense of like, the editing has to be perfect, or like, how does my face look, or like those things. I don't care about that really. But like I did this video, this is like a great example. I did this video in Dublin where leaving poker for OnlyFans. And I had this idea of like how I wanted that. Yeah. I had an idea of how I wanted that scene to be like, and specifically, I guess like that outfit, because like it has to be the right balance of like sexy, obviously, but like funny, or just not too sexy. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And I went shopping with Spraggy for that outfit, and we were in the mall for like 3 hours because I couldn't find. And he was like, "What about this?" I was like, "No, that's not right. That's like too sexy. That's like too." But it can't be too silly because then it's like you're making fun of yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's funny because like, we watch what a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minute video, but like the thought that goes into it, it's always great to hear that stuff. You mentioned prior to becoming a poker pro, you acted, you modeled in New York. In 2019, you were in front of the cameras. That wasn't a vlog. You got the opportunity to host the Triton Series. So how did that come about? And were you excited about presenting and then hosting on camera?
It came about. One of my first friends in poker was Joe Stapleton. Shout out Joe. Joe actually introduced Spraggy and I as well, so I'm indebted to him forever. And Joe obviously does a lot of commentary, and he was working that job, and he just asked me if I would be interested in hosting, and I said sure. I did a phone interview with the guys over at Triton, and I was stupidly pretty. I was naive to think that it would be really easy. I went into it being like, okay, whatever. I'll just like ask them some questions on break. It'll be like so easy. It was not. It was the hardest job I've ever had.
Wow.
I've worked at Burger King. I've worked at Toys R Us. I've had hard jobs. I've had ridiculous jobs. This job, it was so hard. There is nobody who's a bigger hero on earth than people who do bust out interviews.
Wow.
Bust out interviews are hell. But I got through it. I came back for London. I have to say, I don't think that it's something I'll do again, just because I don't know. I'm proud of myself. I stuck it out. I definitely grew as a person, but it's just not my forte I'm an introvert. I don't want to chase people down on breaks. Kara Scott is so great at what she does. It's a unique skill set that I just don't have.
Wow.
So, but yeah, but I enjoyed it. It was good. It was fine, but it's not for me long term.
Interesting. Well, it's good to try things. It's like you said, you're a risk taker, and good on you. Shout out to Joe, we mentioned Matt Berkey as well. Those were previous episodes that we had here on the CardsChat podcast. Joe was episode 16 and Matt was episode 29, I believe. So shout out to them. And always a reminder, guys, after you finish listening to this one, if you haven't heard the 31 other episodes, 31 great hours of content for you guys to listen to. One of the main reasons that your work has attracted an audience, you got a very unique and like I said, pretty cool personality. It's something you don't really often see in the poker world, especially from a woman. It's like this dry, sarcastic sense of humor. I think Devilfish kind of had something similar. You make a lot of people smile, Marley, but not everyone gets it. Does that bother you?
No. That's accurate. That's accurate.
Okay.
That's very accurate, yeah.
Okay. And it doesn't bother you at all that not everyone gets it?
No, it does. It does. And it definitely did in the beginning. I had some notable people, I don't want to name names, but like I had some notable people come out right when I first started making videos publicly to say that they didn't approve of what I was doing. And what it is like people, like random trolls don't necessarily get to me as much as people that I respect in the industry giving me criticism, because that's a real person. That's someone that I respect. Whether or not I agree with the criticism, it really hurts me. And I was destroyed actually when in the beginning, when they first, because I just felt misunderstood. Like they were saying that I was outwardly trying to hurt, whoever it may be. And that obviously is not my intention. And so I made an apology video years ago. And I guess now it's like, it does upset me. Yeah. And I guess like the way I go about it is I have a few people in my life that I've told them and I trust them to tell me when I'm out of line and to give me honest feedback. I know they have my best interest at heart, and I listen to them, and everybody else I kind of just take with a very small grain of salt. And I try to ignore. But yeah, it's hard. It is hard.
Sounds like a pretty solid approach. I mean, when the larger your fan base grows, you can't always please everybody. So it's certainly important to have those people close to you. I know you're a fan of Ricky Gervais. Is there anyone else who's kind of like perhaps inspires the type of stuff that you do and your personality a bit?
I mean, I think I talked a little bit. We did on the orbit. Andrew Schultz is just amazing. I mean, I just admire him for his business sense. Fact that he was rejected from all these major, companies to make a special, and he just did it himself. It blew up. He was so proactive. I like that. I love Tim Dillon. I love Whitney Cummings, and a lot of them. I mean, I do like people who aren't comedians. I like Lex Friedman too. There's a lot of what attracts me to people is people who aren't afraid to kind of take a stance on something and back it up with logic and reason. And even if I don't necessarily agree with them, I can at least appreciate they're willing to take a risk, a smart risk, a risk that like they have reason to believe. It's not just frivolous, so.
Well, I like that. Well, good answer. You're into playful trolling. Okay.
Yes.
And you recently did a video bit where you were teasing that you were playing poker online on your fiance on Spraggy's account, which is obviously a big no-no. Then a couple days later, he goes and he binks the 530 nightly on Stars for over 20K. So no question for you, Marley, but would you like to comment on that?
I would not like to comment on that. I just want to say that I think I played pretty flawlessly. And I'd like to thank the Academy for my score. Thank you very much. No, funny story about that actually though. So I posted that video and I knew that it was possible people might take it seriously. And it's exactly what happened. So I woke up the next day and Spraggy had messaged me like, oh, hey, Stars texted me about your video. That's like all he says. And I had just woken up and I panicked. I just deleted it and I was panicking because obviously I don't want him to get in trouble, right?
Of course.
And then I called him and he was like, no, they thought it was hilarious and they couldn't believe that someone had reported it. They were like, this person's so dumb. And so they're good sports, but I had a moment where my heart sunk and I was like, fuck. Like you just never know with people. Like I thought it was obvious that I was joking, but people just don't get it. So.
Right. Well, it's also I'm glad to see that Stars has a sense of humor. And when you get into big corporations, sometimes it's a little bit difficult to penetrate that wall. But it's good. At the end of the day, it's people who are watching this, not just names and department heads and stuff. All right, the future Mrs. Sprague. How did you two meet?
Well, we met at Run It Up Reno just about 2 years ago. And I was having breakfast with Joe Stapleton, and it was very early. And he said, I'm going to bring a friend. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. I don't really like meeting new people, especially at the wee hours of the morning. So I was a little actually annoyed. I was like, fuck, like, okay, whatever. And it was Ben, and we hit it off right away. We had a great meal. And later that day, we did commentary together, just me and Ben. And
is that picture on your Twitter, like the background? Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's a great picture.
Yeah, that was the day we met. And I don't know if you've been to, so Run It Up Reno is a great event at Peppermill, and it's really a social event. Low stakes tournaments, a lot of events. And we just like hung out that whole weekend. No romance or anything, just hung out. And we stayed friends. I hung out with him. I did Triton London, and we hung out in London when I was here, and just kind of just built this friendship. And then about 6 months later, I actually was the one that texted him like, hey, I actually have a huge crush on you. Aww. Whatever. That's how it happens. So yeah.
Great story. It's great also that, that's someone, who also appreciates and has a passion for poker. It's really cool to find someone who shares that passion and gets you, you're living a poker type of life, and, need to try and explain every single little thing that you're doing. That's really wonderful. You mentioned you spent time together in the UK, and now you're in Las Vegas. Once you're married, God willing, whenever the date's meant to happen, I think you said you're choosing the UK. Why there? Why not Las Vegas?
Well, a couple reasons. I honestly I've been kind of over Vegas for a while. Live poker, it's still alive and well, but it's obviously changed since COVID. I have signed with a poker site. It's not announced yet, but I signed with a poker site that's not in the US, so it just makes a lot of sense. He's obviously with Stars, and so it just makes a lot of sense for us to be there. We're still going to be here for the series every year. He's never played the main event.
Ooh.
We need to get him on the main event. So yeah, it just makes a lot of sense, and I like it over there. I like Europe. It's fun.
Okay, cool. Well, congrats on the signing. You know, whenever the announcement comes, it'll be, I'm sure, some good news. What do you like about living in the UK? You know, you've been there, you spent a good amount of time there. Must be the weather, right?
Oh yeah, the weather's amazing. But the weather is atrocious. I don't know. There's just, you know, I'm from the East Coast. I Boston. I went to school in New York, and there's definitely an element of, I don't know if it's culture, diversity, authenticity. There's something of that missing from Vegas that I've been craving. And Europe definitely has that. Even more so probably than the East Coast. Just a sense of like community, simplicity almost to the lifestyle. And I love Vegas. I like going hard, but I'm done with going hard like 24 hours a day. I need a more paced out life. So I really like that.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Well, I'm sure it'll be a fun adventure. Another project that you were involved with for a while was the Rake podcast with Jamie Kerstetter. It's a great show. I watched not every episode, but I watched many of the episodes. It's sponsored by Run It Once. Shout out to them. Now a new co-host, Ben Wilanowski, with Jamie. In your final episode, again, sincerely enjoyed. It was nice, kind of like a best of trip down memory lane thing. You said you were moving on to other things. You've told us you're going to be you've signed with another site. You said you're going to be doing more content. Can you, generally speaking, is a new podcast in the works, or kind of give us a little bit of a taste or a tease what we can expect from you in the future?
Yeah, so it might have been announced by someone says out, but if it's not, really, I did 7 sketches back in the fall, and I played around with that format for the whole time I've done content, of course. And so I'm going to be doing sketches, short videos. I'm definitely not going to be doing so much traditional vlogs, but leaning more into the comedy sketches on all platforms. And the best thing about it is just having a team now is I'm going to have an editor. I'm going to be outsourcing a lot of this stuff, which I used to do all myself. So it'll be really, it's really nice to have somebody. I started working on it already, but it's nice to have somebody to take the burden off. So that, and then I'm going to be doing like a weekly show, podcast style, like on their Twitch channel, on the site's Twitch channel, and a little bit of streaming and stuff too, but less streaming and more. But I really want to make it like it's going to be a solo podcast. Kind of just like more out of line and in my typical ranty style of my blogs, like that.
Okay, cool. Sounds exciting. I'll be if not the first, then one of the first to subscribe. That sounds really good. More recently, you joined the Solve for Why TV's Poker Out Loud as part of the Vloggers season. I mentioned we did talk recently, a couple weeks ago, with Matt Berkey about that cool project. How did you like playing in it?
I loved it. I've been a fan of that concept since they started it, and I hadn't had a chance to get on, and it was great. I love these vloggers so much too, and it was really cool to battle. It was surprisingly difficult to articulate my thoughts in real time, because I was conscious of, you have to actively not look at them because it's hard to not get something with the way people are talking or they're reading lips or whatever. So it felt a little awkward, but it was a really cool experience. And I definitely have a lot of things that I wish I would have said that I didn't say. Get back, I'm like, fuck, I should have said that. But
can you point to anything that you may have learned from the experience?
Yeah, I mean, I guess just like whenever you're it's the same thing when you stream, when you play poker and you're articulating your thoughts and you watch it back. That's such a golden way to learn. And I guess like a thing I learned is maybe I don't have as much going on in my head as I thought I did. I think a lot of times poker players, you think like, oh, I'm just so sophisticated in this spot and I just have all these things. And then you really start talking about it as like, oh no, I just was thinking about I want to play a hand with that guy and like, I don't know, I'll beat him.
Okay. Well, it's always
Yeah.
cool to watch it back in that sense. That's very interesting. Okay. Well, the last couple questions before we turn to our community questions, I want to turn to the topic of women in poker. It's obviously been a very buzzworthy topic always, but specifically these days. Marley, you're a very strong, opinionated woman, and you don't take crap from anyone. More power to you. You're not afraid of putting yourself out there in the public eye. With your wit, your humor, and your vlogs, you've addressed a lot of issues that women deal with in the poker community in a very different and creative way. Again, I think, more power to you, kudos to you. What kind of impact are you hoping to have with it?
I guess like with the whole women in poker thing, or just inspiring people in general, I take a more indirect approach. There is a lot of women who start groups, start discords or whatever, and they get really hands-on with being supportive in a direct sense. But I just kind of think that for me, for example, a big, I saw when I see Chrissy B just out there crushing and playing high rollers, that is what speaks to me the most, and not necessarily sitting down with the woman, her being like, you can do this,
Mm-hmm.
So I try to just lead by example. And I also just try to be transparent about even the fact that like, hey, I get a lot of opportunities I didn't necessarily earn, or I think that we have a net positive, things that might not necessarily be, received well, because maybe we, I don't want to get give the impression that that we don't have it tough in some sense, because we do, but I just would be remiss if I sat here and said like it's all tough, because I don't, it hasn't been my experience, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, good answer. So two opposite questions here then. How do you feel we can make poker more attractive to women?
I don't know. And it's a complicated question, because I do think that the misogyny and the assholes in the community is a piece of it. And I think lessening that is a piece of that. But I also just kind of think that that's kind of always going to be there. And so it's almost like, I don't know. I always just take the approach of like leading by example. And so, if you crush your own life, if you go out there and you just better yourself and you win and you just put your head down and you do work and you put stuff, people are going to notice. And I think that speaks the loudest. And so how we get more women in poker, I think, is you just excel, you do your best, and then they'll see that and they'll be like, whoa, that's possible. So.
Yeah, great. It's I'm not a woman, but that type of approach certainly resonates with me. That's why I asked you that one, first. The opposite question of that, and that's my last question here. Do you have any practical tips or advice for women who might want to step out into the poker world, whether as a player or as a content creator, but they may be afraid or uncomfortable to do that?
Yeah, the main thing is like the first bunch of times I played, it was with my dad at the table, and that was a great buffer. And if you have someone that you trust, because there's little things like you forget when it's your big blind, or you don't put the chips right, and it can feel really daunting, like I'm not gonna remember, like whatever. But to have someone sitting next to you that you trust, that can just kind of be like, it's your big blind, like can give you a heads up. It's like a safety blanket. It kind of feels like, so if you have a friend or someone that's better, that's more experienced than you, that's a great thing to do, especially for live poker. As far as content, for content, it's just like, it's tough because it's just tough out there for women. People are going to come down on you and criticize you. No matter what. So just preparing yourself for that, like expecting that to happen, come up with a plan for when that happens.
That's fair. Well, good tips and strategy there. Well, this is now the segment of the show where we turn to our Cards Chat community to see what questions you guys who are watching and listening wanted to ask our guests. We have a dedicated thread on the Cards Chat forum for this, so that's where we announce who our future guests are going to be. It gives you guys a chance to submit your questions. So first shout out goes to Shells. Thank you very much, Shells, for submitting this one. Anyone who has watched or listened to your vlogs, Marley, has to know that you have a great sense of humor and timing. How did you develop that quick wit?
Well, I was an actor and a comedian. I did a bunch of stand-up in New York, and yeah, so I kind of dabbled in the whole realm, but I've done a lot of writing and stand-up and castings and stuff like that. And of course, I just like trained in acting, so it's always kind of been, it's something I'm trained for. I didn't just like, it's not just like a natural talent.
Okay.
And yeah, so I just like trained for it. And so yeah, I guess like, but I think that we all like deep down kind of know the stuff that we wish was said or wish. We all kind of have it in us, but it's just a matter of being like, oh, I'm just actually going to say that. The thing that everyone's thinking.
Right.
That's kind of
interesting. I didn't know you did stand-up comedy. Do you have a type 5?
I do not have. Oh, God, no.
Oh, wow.
No. I was doing like open mics. I wasn't like shows or anything.
Okay.
But,
any favorite place to perform?
I mean, there was this place called The Stand in Vegas. In New York, that was great. I mean, I did like a bunch of bringers too, at like Caroline and like Gotham and stuff.
Nice.
And just like, and I've done a bunch in Vegas too. But yeah, it's again it's just terrifying. It's just absolutely terrifying.
But definitely, once you've done it a couple times, if you can face that, you can face 8 other people with the felt. That's for sure.
Exactly.
What do you do in your free time when you're not playing, thinking about poker, or moving to the UK?
What do I do in my free time? I mean, I try to. I got really into like working out and stuff in quarantine. So just doing something active. I have to like run and stuff. I have to do something active just to burn off the extra headspace. So I guess that, I don't know.
Cool. Okay. Well, thank you, Shells, for those questions. That's really good stuff to start us off here. Crystals asks another question now. What is the biggest poker goal you have for this year and for next year?
This year is just to get this project off the ground. It's something that I've like, it's like a dream project, and I've been lucky enough that they kind of, I told them kind of going in that I want free reign to be able to kind of like go there, and they're totally on board with me, and it's just a dream. So I just want to make that happen. It's my number one priority. And I guess, and next year, I mean, I can't lie. I still have a dream of like having a tournament score. And I know it's, anybody who plays poker knows it's like a silly thing to strive for, because it's just so high there. It doesn't mean anything really in terms of your ability, right? But it just like would feel good to have that accomplishment, So
sure, absolutely. A trophy in the trophy case is always a good thing. Our last community questions come from Acid Burn FX. What a great name. I love that name. Always sends the most interesting and creative questions here. Marley, what is something you think everyone should do at least once in their life?
I have a couple like R-rated ones. Everything someone should do. Here's something. Work in a restaurant, because or work in the service industry, because there are so many little things. I waited tables for like 6 years, and it's such a pet peeve being out to eat with people and they don't know little things. Like, for example, like, don't be the last one sitting there. They want to, like, you can tell they're changing shifts and they want to close out with you. Just little things like that, but like that you don't you don't think about, and we spend so much of our lives dealing in the service industry and dealing with people giving us service that you just need to know courtesy stuff. I think it's so important.
Wow, that's great. I certainly didn't think about that being the last one at the table. How important is tipping to you, having been, being someone who had depended on tipping for so long? That's my question.
Yeah, it's really important. And that's kind of been my way to give back during COVID, is I've been over tipping just because I think that people, even especially now, like with COVID, I can't imagine being in that industry this year, that money that you've lost. So yeah, I'm an over tipper. I've been there, so I get it.
Next one from Acid Burn FX. Oh, yeah, love that name. If you were, this is a great one. If you were a dictator of a small island nation, what crazy dictator things would you do?
If I was a dictator on a small island nation, what would I do? God, that's a thinker. I would like not tolerate inauthenticity, I guess. I would, if I felt somebody was giving me some kind of answer that they thought I wanted to hear, I would be like, I wouldn't accept it. I would like put them in jail until they told me how they really felt.
Okay. Interesting. That's interesting. I didn't know what answer I expected, but that's not the one I expected. So that's interesting. Okay. And our final question for this show, Marley, what are some of your personal rules that you never break?
I guess like this is kind of deep, I guess, but
that's why we saved it for last.
Really deep. Yes. Just like I have a bunch of really close people in my life that I kind of call like the untouchables, that, if they like need me or if something's up with them, like I just like drop what I'm doing and take care of them. And I guess that's like my number one rule, is just like, I don't know. I just kind of, I treat them like gold, and, I don't really, sacrifice on that. And I take it pretty seriously. So that, I guess that would be it.
A fantastic way to end off, and certainly says a lot about you, as we've learned a lot on this show. Thanks to everyone who sent in questions for Marley Cordero, and for our future podcast guests. Again, turn to the dedicated thread on the forums. Of course, please be sure to give us a good review on iTunes and spread the word via your social media channels if you'd like the show. Marley, thank you for joining me on the show today. I really enjoyed it. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners and viewers before we let you go?
No, just keep an eye out for my project. It might have been announced, but if not, and then I'm, Poker Out Loud every Tuesday, and Poker After Dark coming soon. So keep an eye out for those.
Nice, cool. On Poker Go. Very cool. Well, thanks again to all of you for tuning in to another episode of the Cards Chat podcast. I'm Robbie Strazynski. You can follow me on Twitter @CardPlayerLife. I wish you all a wonderful day.